All right, so we'll get started. We'll start the October 15, 2019 full city council meeting. The clerk will call the roll to record the attendance.
Anderson Burgos.
Here.
Bartley. Bresnahan. Leahy.
Present.
LeBron Martinez. Here. Lisi. Here. McGee.
Here.
McGivern.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Valentine.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
In the city of Holyoke.
And the city council.
Retired postman.
If you hear loud noises, there's something going on upstairs, so it's not bowling. Before we get started with the agenda, we have a special guest with us tonight. I'd ask that Councilor Valentine escort our special guest in. The City Council at two meetings ago.
Spotlight, Betty.
And left her, no. Took a vote, unanimously voted to give a proclamation to Betty Medina Lichtenstein, and I'll turn it over to the maker of the order to come on up and present.
Good evening, everyone. I'll try to compete with the party that's upstairs. Again, my name is Josie Valentine. I'm honored to be here today to present this proclamation to Betty. Betty Medina is someone who, if you've been in Holyoke long enough, her name has probably come up as you're meeting with folks regarding Latinx issues, regarding community in general. She's been a pioneer with so many others when it comes to the movement of Puerto Ricans here in the city of Holyoke, as well as the growth of so many folks here. She's a mentor to many, and we are thrilled to have her here. Just recently, we actually, this body as well, unanimously voted to rename Spring Street in downtown Holyoke as Betty Medina Way or Betty Medina Street, and so we did the unveiling of that, had a great turnout for that. And again, just a small way to honor the almost 25 years that Betty has been running Enlace de Familias, but even before that, the decades that she has submitted to this city, not only as the first Puerto Rican woman to be elected in office here in Massachusetts as part of the school committee, but also as a leader of our community. So today, we are offering her a resolution in recognition of her having been named the Parade Madrina, which is the godmother, for the 2019 Springfield Puerto Rican Parade, which took place a couple of weeks ago. So the resolution reads as follows. Be it resolved that the Holyoke City Council extends its congratulations to Betty Medina Lichtenstein in recognition of being named Parade Madrina for the 2019 Springfield Puerto Rican Parade, and be it further resolved that the Holyoke City Council extends its best wishes for continued success, that this resolution be duly signed by the President of the City Council, Todd McGee, and attested to and a copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the City of Holyoke. Signed by Todd McGee, attested by Brenna Murphy McGee on October 15th, 2019. Thank you, Betty, and congratulations.
This is very special. Thank you very, very much. I look around the room and I think about all of those of you who I think have mentored me and who have done extraordinary work for the city because that's what it's all about, right? It's not about being a madrina or getting a street named after you. It's about the kind of love that we have for the city and the people for it that live here, and that we continue to do this work in that light. I want to thank you. As a public servant, you're never off the clock. You're always working, you're always thinking. And if it wasn't for you, for the leaders of this body, those that have come before us and those that will come after us, the city would not be who it is. This is a very generous city. It's a very loving city. And I just want to say I am honored. It feels a little bit weird sometimes. I drive to work and I see the name and it's like, okay, even if I lose my mind, I know how to get here. So I thank you very much. And I pray for each and every one of you. May you continue to be blessed with good health and continue to do the good work that you do for this city. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Still the best speaker I ever heard.
Congratulations. Please tell your son I said hello. Great kid, man.
Peter, thank you so much. Thank
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Have a good night.
Back to the agenda, item 1 was laid on the table. It was the special meeting for September 16th, minutes of the meeting. There were some issues there. Everyone's taking a look. They're okay now, or
Looks good. It's good.
motion is to receive?
Receive and accept the minutes.
Motion is receive and accept.
Second.
Okay. So for the minutes of meeting, the motion is receive and accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Still laid on the table, but missing would be item 2, which is the supplemental budget. Hearing nothing, on to public comment. No one has signed up for public comment.
Mr. President,
Yes?
can we skip ahead and take out of order a roll call vote tonight for the Public Service Subcommittee? I'm looking at the number now. I need these things on. God, I hate that. Boy. I believe it's item 9. Any? No.
D.
9,
Actually, it doesn't seem to be on here.
Not on here, is it?
Ryan, where is it?
It wasn't filed to the committee, I believe it was put on, so I don't know what number it is, but it is, I believe it is on. I believe either you or Mike filed it.
It's our meeting that we held the other night where we interviewed 5 people for the Whiting Street Reservoir Committee. Should have been complied with.
Number 18, no?
Should be on here as a complied with, right?
We didn't have an actual order to have the people in. We had them in, but we didn't have like an order in front of us that night, it was just a review.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying, should we just skip and take out of order item number 18? Is that right, Todd?
Second.
the motion is to go out of order to 18, which is that the Honorable City Council vote to add 3 people by roll call to the Whiting Reservoir Study Committee. Is that what, that's one?
Yeah, do you think that's the correct way to do this?
If there was nothing in the jacket, then yeah, you'd have to have something to act on, so this would be the way to do it. So motion would be to receive and adopt and turn over to Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Just briefly, we had a very extensive meeting last week, so I thank the counselors who came down for it. We went over it quite a bit. One of the things we went over is the Whiting Street Reservoir Study Committee. This is an order, and I'll turn it over in the hands of Michael Sullivan and Dave Bartley shortly. But the Whiting Street Reservoir Committee is a committee that's going to study the needs, possibilities, and resources of the city regarding the most economic advantages of using the reservoir. What the study recommendations should include is recreational activities. Should we allow biking, hiking? Should we allow fishing? I know Joe is really big into zip lining. He wants zip lining up there. We also are looking at different other possible revenue-producing ventures, such as bottling the water, and maybe some camping or food service opportunities. So those are the different pillars that we're going to make up the scope and the purpose of this. The City Council, we are going to vote on three at-large members tonight. And let me just go over the names of the people who interviewed and came down. We had Mr. Harry Craven, we had Mr. Kevin Harmon, we had Miss Marlene Connor, and Mr. Mike Lynch. As you know, you can vote for any person, any person you want, but these are the 5 people who filled out or sent in resumes and wanted to be a part of this. 2 other people had submitted, but I believe they both backed out. One moved to Texas and another person just didn't come. So having said that, I'll turn it over to the hands of Michael Sullivan, maker of the order.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to commend the chairman of the service committee. Great meeting. They're all 5 were great candidates. I wish myself that we could take all 5 and put them on there. I'm hoping that the mayor has one appointment that he'll pick from that list also, and maybe shortly down the road we can do what some of the other committees have done, like the historic commission stuff. And I know we have it on some of the others where we have an alternate also, and get all 5 involved. So having said that,
One last thing, if I could. I missed one, very important, Mr. Kip Foley as well.
Anyone further on this?
The study group.
Counselor Bacon.
I'm just wondering if there is any recommendation from the committee?
Well, no, at this point, it's pretty much complied with, and the reason being, all 5 people could serve
It's a tie.
now.
Okay.
Very difficult.
Thank you.
Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jimmy just said. First of all, I want to really, it sounds like a broken record here, but I really want to compliment the chair, Mr. President. I thought he did a great job of running the meeting. But not only that, it was I like the way we just kind of had all the applicants right here, Mr. President. It was instead of having them stand out in the hallway and like we usually do, it was actually more robust, and I actually learned a lot more. Each of the 5 candidates, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, Mr. President. I just think we should, get on with it with the 3-year, the 2-year, and the 1-year. I think that's it for right now, Mr. President. And then I kind of like what Mike said relative to alternates. If they're willing to serve as alternates, I'd love to find room for the other 2 to serve as alternates. I don't see why we can't have that, frankly, to have alternates at this point. And then the last point is that we've got to get. I know we lost our conservation commission director because his last day was Friday, and so now we've got to get the other department heads to pitch in with their nominees, and we've got to get the mayor to act with his office's nominee. And I'm really hopeful, Mr. President, that you can
Each of these candidates brought forth something that was very important. They said, this is a great idea, but we want to protect one of our most important assets, and that's the mountain range itself. They had their thoughts not just with the reservoir, but with the entire mountain range, the reservation, the conservation property that's been deeded over in recent years, and the protection of this very valuable resource, understanding that it's under the water department's domain, it's technically still drinking water, but unlikely will ever be used as drinking water, but that doesn't mean we can just take it offline. So each of the candidates, some have different things to offer, but if you caught the interviews, they're incredible stories, incredible compassion, and I think each of the candidates, as stated, would be very apt to serve on this committee. Mr. President, this is going to be difficult to vote. I'm not too sure how we can advise us to vote, because our ballot is, go to the first ballot and we pick one person. So our top three candidates, Jimmy's and Juan's number one may be different from David and Joe's, but our number ones may be our number twos to what their number ones are. So if there's no simple way to do this, I think we just have to pay attention that, 1, 2, and 3 is important, but somehow we got to get to seven votes.
We need 7 votes.
Yep.
So, I mean, traditional way of doing it is going to the first ballot, doing the first person, then the second and the third, kind of what we did with the CPA. Just a heads up, I wasn't leaving you while you were talking. Something's wrong with the microphones, so at home, they can see our lips moving.
Make a motion, adjourn.
It's back, so we're back on, so they can now hear us.
I'll take that motion back.
Joe, can you repeat what you just said? No.
No. Was that a second?
So what we can do is give it a try in a sense of trying to fill the seats, and we'll go from there. Motion would be to go to the first ballot.
Motion, want me to review the members again?
Yep, please.
So I will, for the benefit of the people at home and also the people, my colleagues here as well. I gotta put these back on again. Jeez. All right. So we have Mr. Harry Craven, and these are in no particular order. These are just how they're written out. Mr. Kevin Harmon, Mr. Kip Foley, Miss Marlene Connor, and Mr. Mike Lynch. I make a motion to go to the first ballot.
Second.
Are we going in alphabetical? I pulled Dan first. Do you want me to start with Dan or alphabetical?
Yeah, let's go with Dan.
Bresnahan?
Mr. President?
Harry Craven. I'm sorry.
Hold on, Madam Clerk, Mr. President?
Sorry about that. There was a question on whether it's 3, 2, and 1 years. That's not in the ordinance like the CPA was.
It is in the ordinance.
It
Is
is.
it? Oh, that's what I was asking. So
Want
it
me to read
is.
that?
So
It
when we did the CPA, we did the I think we did the 1 year first. No, we did the 3 year first, then we went to the 2 year, and then the 1 year.
We did, and so I was just going to suggest that Mr. Leahy just amend his motion that we just go to the, I'll make a friendly amendment, that this would be for the 3-year appointment.
So
second
first
that.
ballot to the 3-year appointment, then we'll go to the 2 and the 1. Councilor Bon Martinez?
Yes, Mike, I just have a question. Are these stipend positions, or they're just volunteer? Thank
No,
you.
they're stipend.
Right in the ordinance. No, there's nothing there.
All right, so what's up for vote first, and Council President was picked, he'll go first for voting. 3-year appointment first.
Bresnahan?
Harry Craven.
Leahy?
Mr. Harry Craven.
LeBron Martinez?
Mr. Foley?
Lisi?
Marlene Connor.
McGee?
Mr. Craven?
McGivern?
Craven?
Murphy?
Craven.
Sullivan?
Harry Craven.
Tallman?
Harry Craven.
Bacon?
Mr. Craven.
Valentine?
Ms. O'Connor.
Anderson Burgos?
Michael Lynch.
Bartley?
Kip Foley.
So Mike Lynch has 1 vote, Marlene Connor has 2 votes, and Harry Craven has 8 votes.
So with your vote for the 3-year, you've appointed Mr. Craven. Motion for the 2-year.
Make a motion to go to the 2-year ballot.
Second.
Clerk will call roll. State your name for the 2-year appointment.
Bresnahan,
Kip Foley.
Leahy,
Mr. Kip Fuller.
LeBrun Martinez,
Mr. Skip Foley.
Lisi,
Foley.
McGee,
Foley.
McGivern,
Foley.
Murphy,
Marlene Connor.
Sullivan,
Kip Foley.
Tallman,
Kip Foley.
Bacon,
Marlene Connor.
Valentine,
Marlene Connor.
Anderson Burgos,
Michael Lynch.
Bartley,
Kip Foley.
Michael Lynch, 1 vote. Marlene Connor, 3 votes. And Kip Foley, 9 votes.
What were your vote? You approve Kip Foley for 2 years.
Mr. President, can we make, can we go to the 3rd ballot?
Motion.
Second.
Counselor Lisi.
So I'm just missing on the first ballot, I'm counting 11 votes in the report and missing, I guess, 2 votes.
I think Mike Lynch had a vote.
And Kip
Did.
Foley had one.
Mike Lynch and Kip Foley, the rest went to, I believe went to Harry Craven.
Got
Marlene
2,
Connor had one,
1,
too.
and 8.
So who's the second 2?
So,
You and I voted for Connor in the first
Lynch,
vote. I got
1, Kip Foley, 2.
Foley, okay.
I might have said it wrong.
Thank you.
So motion is to go to
Dan?
the 3rd ballot for the 1 year. Clerk will call the roll.
Bresnahan,
Marlene O'Connor.
Leahy,
Miss Marlene Connor.
LeBrun Martinez,
Ms. Marlene Connor.
Lisi,
Marlene Connor.
McGee,
Connor.
McGivern,
Marlene Connor.
Murphy,
Marlene Connor.
Sullivan,
Michael Lynch.
Tallman,
Michael Lynch.
Bacon,
Marlene Connor.
Valentine,
Marlene Connor.
Anderson Burgos,
Marlene Connor.
Bartley,
Kevin Harmon.
Kevin Harmon, 1 vote. Michael Lynch, 2 votes. And 1. Marlene Connor, 10 votes.
But your vote, you approved Ms. Connor for the 1-year term. We could take the remainder of the names, send them to the mayor as part of what we interviewed in recommending one of them being appointed. And then if there's alternates, I know that's not in the ordinance, but if they want to be an alternate in some way, we can offer that up.
Okay, so I make a motion, if needed, to send the remainder of the people to the mayor's office.
Second. Second.
Motion is to send the remaining names to the mayor's office.
Mr. President,
All
too.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Counselor Leahy again?
Yeah, if we could, because I believe the people are, I saw the people. If we could take out of order item 9A.
Nine A from Public Service, Committee on Public Service was referred to City Council review. The mayor's appointee to serve as an alternate to Historic Commission. Appointee be confirmed, it's been signed off by only 2 people? The people for?
2 of 3.
You only need 2.
2 of 3.
Oh, there's 4, 5 names down here. I always thought there was 5 names. All right. Under discussion, Counselor McGivern. I mean, Leahy, sorry. I was like crossing names off that don't belong here.
Open up a can of worms.
That's we're falling apart up here.
Watch it.
Counselor Leahy.
All right, Counselor McGinty.
There we go.
Here we go. This person actually was in and out all throughout the night because there was a historic commission meeting going on at the same time. This person has been very active in the historic commission. He came after the meeting and answered any of the questions the counselors had. I'll probably turn it over to Michael Sullivan. He knows this person well. So, Michael.
Counselor Sullivan?
Say that again, Jim. As far as the Historic Commission?
Yes.
Yeah, Marco Crescentini's been very active. He's been a staple on the Historic Commission, attending all the meetings. He's also been on the CPA committee. Can't say enough good about the person. I think it's a person who will serve the city very well, and we should move forward with it.
Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, I just call it dedication. The guy comes here for the meeting, and then he had to leave to go to historical commission meeting. Comes back about 2 hours later, and asked if we had questions for him, and but he was all set. It's really great to have people that are willing to volunteer and step up to work for the city. So I'm very much in support of this nominee.
Counselor Lisi.
Counselor Leahy, do you mind, is he an architect? Is that what I understand his profession to be? Or
I
perhaps?
can't say that with 100% knowledge, no.
No. I thought that he had some skill set that was definitely within the, purview of the Historical Commission, and that would come as an asset to the committee. But from what I hear, he is serving the committee well, and so sounds great.
Anyone further? There's no further. A roll call for this one? No. All those in favor of the appointee?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah, thank you. We could just do two more.
Two more.
Item 9B.
9B. Motion is to go out of order 9B. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Committee on Public Service referred, review appointee for the Fairfield Ave Historic Commission, recommended that be confirmed. Our discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, very quickly, this gentleman came down, and he probably had the largest resume that I've ever seen. It must have been 15 pages. He's an academic, and of course, academics, as he said, they like to add every article they've ever. And his name, let me just make sure I pronounce his name correctly. Matteo Riodato.
Sounds good.
Prior to me talking a little bit about him, he's also a hero. I got notified, I left my phone in the car, and Glenn Sullivan had texted me saying that he was one of the first people to help put up a ladder on the burning house in Fairfield. And he didn't tell us that. I didn't know until after the meeting, so I want to thank Glenn for letting me know that. And I also want to thank him for stepping forward and helping that family out. But having said that, this is, I think, a very good pick. This person has lived in Holyoke for some time. As I said, he has the largest resume that I've seen. He's an academic. He's an adjunct faculty member, graduate of Brown University. He's just very smart. He knows a lot about Holyoke's history, and quite frankly, about the world's history as well. We had a great conversation, and I think it's an excellent pick by the mayor.
Anyone further?
Where he understands the importance of historical, and not only the importance of historical property, but the importance of preservation of historical property. As Jimmy said, he lives at 56 Fairfield Avenue and was very active the night of the fire, and understanding that his character, I think goes without, unspoken, of an upper grade character. But also, I think is he has a keen sense of what the district does, and one of the things he talked about was the preservation of historical buildings in an historical district, but with common sense. That meaning that a homeowner has to have some ideas that the material that they use when they fix the outside of their home has to be compatible with the district itself. But at the same time, you have to understand that the homeowner needs to be the ability to have affordability of being able to fix their home itself. So I think he's got the right character. He's got the right ideas, and I think his work ethic speaks for itself. I think he's a good candidate for this position.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to correct something Councilor Leahy had mentioned earlier. It was not Mr. Riodato that got the ladder up at the fire on Fairfield Ave, but it was Marco Crescentini.
Oh, my
So I think
apologies.
Yeah, no problem. And I just think at some point we'll get something filed to get him in here and recognize his efforts on that part, so.
Anyone further? So motion is to confirm the appointee. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And the last one, I also want to thank the council's indulgence for letting me take all these out of order, because I want to get these people home. Ryan's getting it out of the jacket now, but we also interviewed a person for the CPA committee. Only one person applied, and that person we interviewed, and she did a very fantastic job. Her name is Meg McGrath Smith. She's been going to each one of the meetings. She's been a volunteer. I believe, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you're good at that. But she's the secretary of the CPA committee now.
Yes, and she has been there for every meeting and is up to speed, and that's what we need, really. It's to get someone in there that already knows what's going on. Already the applications are in for the next round of funding, and she's an excellent choice.
So it's not on the agenda, but motion would be to pull from committee?
Yeah, we did it.
19? Item 19?
Oh, is it there?
Yes. Item 19.
Oh, so they filed it. Okay, I see what Ryan was doing.
Okay.
This was the same thing where it was an applicant.
missing, yeah.
And we got the letter of application applying to the position, but not the order to appoint.
Okay. So motion is to go out of order to 19. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That the council vote for the person to serve on the CPA or CPC, really, committee. Of which, turn it back over to Councilor Leahy, just to remind the name of the person.
Yeah, it's the name is Miss Meg McGrath Smith, Wyckoff Ave.
Any comments, any questions? Motion would be to grant or confirm the appointee. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Congratulations.
We caught you up.
We're good.
All right, so back,
President, right here.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just in light of that, I know there's a couple people here for 10F, so I'd like to
10F.
make a motion to suspend.
Motion
and
made
take
to
a
go out of order to 10F. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 10F, the Committee on DGNR, who was referred a special permit for Frank Demarnis.
Demarnis.
Yeah, butchering that way.
No,
Single-family home for a floodplain overlay, 8.1.2 on Northampton Street. This is to recommend that it, oh, here's the full order. To approve with the following conditions. The petitioner shall work with the Conservation Commission, plant appropriate vegetation to serve as a buffer between properties. C would be September 13th, 2019, letter of Conservation Commission shall be complied with by the petitioner. D, September 20th, 2019, letter of the Building Commissioner shall be complied with by the petitioner. And E, City Ordinance Section 8157 shall be complied with, signed off by the members of the committee. Councilor Bartley.
Motion is to receive and adopt the committee report to grant a special permit with the aforesaid conditions.
Motion
Second.
is to receive, adopt with the conditions under discussion.
You know, Mr. President, I don't think we need much discussion on this. I think while it looks, it's a very wordy order, and I apologize for that. It was just a very complicated couple of meetings we had relative to this. I think that I did get some feedback on it. Right now, the petitioner, I think the long-range plan is to develop a single-family home, but that is not in the cards right this minute. When it comes to development of a single-family home, the petitioner will need to get a building permit from the building commissioner, and therein lies the tail of the tape. And because I did get some emails and some couple calls relative to this. Well, you know, why are you allowing? Well, we're not allowing this. This is part of our city law, our city ordinances. We're granting a special permit right now with these conditions. There was a little bit of contention. I think that there was And there were a couple back and forth letters and maybe some arguments here and there, but ultimately, the committee felt by a unanimous vote to recommend this as written. And the hope is that we can get this project moving, Mr. President, or the petitioner wants to get the project moving, and then if and when the petitioner wants to develop his home, which sounds like it's going to be a very impressive site, he is going to need the help of the building commissioner. There were a few things that slowed us down, but we hashed all those out in committee. However, if anyone has any questions whatsoever, I will happily entertain them now. But I don't, we had two very lengthy meetings, and I don't think there's any reason to belabor it here. But if, like I said, Mr. President, I'll try to answer anybody's questions. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, the only question I have, I know there were some fines that had been, I think the building commissioner plus the conservation commissioner had fined the property. Has that been resolved, do you know?
Oh, so I have, just through the chair, I have no knowledge of that, but if you'll notice, the September 13th letter is a letter wherein the fines were described. So that was it. I would also suggest to you that we no longer have a conservation commissioner, because that gentleman resigned as of last Friday to move on to greener pastures. So through the chair to Councilor Murphy, I can't directly answer that. But we conditioned this, and that those fines were in that letter.
Okay.
That's why we conditioned the special permit on that. But if you recall, the petitioner said pretty clearly that there was that wasn't like the final result. Yes, it was in the letter. We did see it, but there might have been some back and forth, especially in light of the fact that there was a Conservation Commission meeting last Thursday. I have no knowledge of what happened there. I received no communication on that, and we didn't make this contingent upon any knowledge of that meeting. So I can't say for sure. And as I said, with the gentleman resigning, I mean, I'm just kind of driving blind.
And I just wonder, are we allowed to grant a special permit if in fact fines have been levied and are not paid?
No, municipal fees and taxes.
Well,
Currently, all fees and taxes pursuant to the letter from the treasurer are up to date, but you're talking about a different fee or fine that was not put into that list.
but it is on the list, Mr. President.
Is it?
It is. It's in the letter. The letter's a page and a half. Both those letters are a page and a half. I referenced the letters specifically for that because we reviewed them in committee.
So if in fact that's in the letter, then if we approve this and they didn't pay the fine, then a special permit would not be issued. Would that be correct?
Okay, well.
I mean, I would like to get this done, and I think they've tried to work to cooperate with the neighbor to resolve those issues. But again, I think we got to make sure if there are fines out there, they're paid.
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
Mr. President, this is why we do things in committee, but that's okay. So the letter is dated 9/13/19. I hope I wrote that on there, right? I did. Okay, 9/13/19. So I have the letter right in front of me, and you go to page 2 of this very detailed letter. In the first paragraph on page 2, based upon the wetlands ordinance, the appropriate fine for the number of conditions violated is $3,150. You are hereby issued these fines. So that is in the 9/13/19 letter, Mr. President, which I put on here as C. So, I just, like I said, we did this in committee. You were there.
So it protects
It covers us, I felt adequately.
Anything further, Counselor? No. Counselor McGivern.
Just a question and maybe an understanding, but I believe when it comes to special permits, we cannot issue one if someone is delinquent on taxes, sewer, water, fees, fines of that nature. So my question is, we know a fine has been levied, but is it delinquent?
Right, I was going to read that. In essence, section 82-3 city ordinance. In addition to the requirements, they have to be, that all their taxes are paid. I'm just paraphrasing it. So that was the list of 6/11/2019. 2018 from the treasurer's office that those taxes were current. However, there's something that's outstanding, which would, in essence, fall under that. I mean, we couldn't issue it unless everything's paid up, would be my understanding to that section.
I agree with you.
That's what,
And that's, I think that's what
saying
Counselor
that.
Bartley is pointing out in the September letter. Any
Councilor
further
Murphy's right,
questions?
Councilor Murphy's right, there's no question about it, but I hope that, like I said, it was a lengthy meeting, so.
Anyone further?
Night.
Counselor Lisi.
I'm under the impression that the letters are being appealed, and I don't know if that complicates matters.
Even if they're appealed, if they haven't been paid, you still couldn't issue the permit. Now, if they won their appeal, then the taxes wouldn't be owed, or the fine wouldn't be owed. Anything?
motion.
So currently, the motion is to approve with the conditions. Clerk will call it roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for granting the special permit.
Can we?
President Head?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm gonna ask a question here.
Councilor
So
Lisi.
could we just, the letter from the Conservation Commissioner, the Building Commissioner, it seems like there's a lot of details in addition to the fines being levied. Are there other acts that they need to come into compliance with? I don't have the letters in front of me. So through the chair to the chair of the DG committee.
Yeah,
Counselor
I don't fully grasp the question, Mr. President.
Do
So
you have the
are there-
letters?
Other actions that the applicant needs to take besides remedying the fine in order to come into compliance with the letters? Or is it just the paying of the fine? Does the whole letter say, these are the reasons why you're being fined and you need to pay it? Or do you have to take other actions? I just want to make sure that we make it really clear what needs to be complied with here.
So,
Mr. President, respectfully, I'll answer the question. It is a two-page letter. If the president wants me to read the whole letter, I will read the entire letter, the two-page letters.
which one? There's a September,
Well, the question was directed from, I don't know which letter that she wants me to read, but they are public record. We did have these at DGR. The committee did review both letters. Committee voted, as I said. I think beyond, the letters are pretty detailed, and I said at the start of this, I didn't want to get super down into the weeds, because we did that in committee over two different meetings that every member here was noticed on. Now, not every member appeared, but if there were questions, we could have drilled down at that point. So I think we laid it out here as succinctly as we humanly could, and I'm hopeful that that'll.
so other
That's
than
fine.
the fines in the letter, because I don't have I've been trying to go through this packet, the letters aren't here. That's one reason I'm saying that. But in those letters, other than the fees, was there other conditions that had to be met? You don't have to read the letter, but.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Anything further from Councilor Lisi?
So I would offer a friendly amendment then, that the letters be complied with and the fees settled. Whether it's through, because the letter being complied with, it just says you're being assessed a fee. And there's other actions that need to be taken. So I think we should really just make it very explicit that the letter shall be complied with, whatever actions the different commissioners laid out that need to come into compliance, as well as the fees or fines settled.
So C and D you want to amend to say that the fees and fines be paid prior to issue? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm using the word settled just because if it is an appeal and they win their appeal, then there's nothing to actually pay.
I would second that.
All right, so that the fees and fines be settled, that's on C and D. It's seconded, under discussion. Counselor Bacon, you had your hand up.
I'm all set.
Okay, Counselor Bartley.
Mr. President.
Yep.
It says, first of all, I'm being respectful. So I don't want you to yell at me. Okay. All right.
I don't yell at people.
So I'm being respectful. All right. The conditions at C, says September 13 letter shall be complied with by petitioner. Shall be complied with by petitioner. D, the September 20th letter of building commissioner shall be complied with by petitioner. Now, we just heard the maker of this amendment wasn't at either one. I received zero feedback from the amendment maker at this point, prior to now. We just heard the amendment maker did not read either letter.
Has anyone read that letter? Has anyone besides the DGR committee had
Order,
access to
order
that letter?
By both, order, please. Counselor, your point's made.
I'm just, well, you know, Mr. President, respectfully, you know, if I interrupted, there'd be a gavel.
I said
that's
order.
okay. That's okay, Mr. President. You do it the way you do it. But I'm just, you know, we did all of this, and now we're asked to make an amendment made and seconded by a member of the committee who was present for all this. I'm just done. I mean, I'm not gonna vote for that, only because I think the order is, I think it is pretty clearly written. Now, these letters were in committee. Every member of the committee read it. I don't know if it's my role to email it to everybody. I don't think that's my role. I mean, city council members should come to committee meetings where they can get copies of letters, or they have all right to go into the jacket and read it. Furthermore, they can contact department heads and get copies of letters. I think this is a little bit of overkill for one reason that I don't understand. I would just respectfully ask we just sort of deny this motion. Thank you.
So the motion was to amend C and D to say that the fines, say that again so we have it now correctly.
You know, I mean, my whole issue is, I don't know if it says you're being assessed this fine or if it says you need to become compliant with this fine. And there's a big difference there. And so I just want to make sure that per our ordinance that says we don't grant special permits unless all municipal fees and taxes are being paid, that we have something in there that distinguishes that it's not just complying with the actions in the letter, but that the municipal fees and taxes are paid.
All right, so for C and D, order, or the amendment that was seconded is at the end of each sentence, shall be complied with by petitioner, and all fines shall be paid prior to issue. Permits being issued. That was what was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
The noes would have it.
Show of hands.
Request is a show of hands. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. So motion fails. Back to the original, which was 10F with the conditions A, B, C, D, and E as written. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the special permit with conditions as is.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy? Yes. LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lacy?
Nope.
McGee?
No.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Anderson Burgos?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
8 yeas, 5 nays.
Any further? Any further? So any more out of order?
Make a motion to reconsider action and lay on the table.
Motion is to reconsider, lay on the
Second.
table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Can I just ask a question?
Counselor Murphy.
8 to 5 does not pass?
9, 2/3.
Nine.
It's a 2/3 vote. It's a special permit, correct?
Right.
So,
It's a two-thirds vote?
Special, the zoning.
Zoning.
I have a question.
No, it's a zoning, it's an amendment, it's part of the zone itself.
Floodplain, yeah.
I might be wrong, but I'm
I
pretty
thought
sure
it was
it's a 2/3 vote.
two-thirds. You can always ask legal.
Motion to inquire with legal.
Motion is to ask legal. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Do you have the special permit request in front of you?
Yep. What are you looking for? Or?
I'm looking to see what it's for.
Floodplain overlay
Overlay
district,
1, 2.
It's a special permit to build in the floodplain overlay district?
single-family
Yes.
home.
It's 2/3 vote, Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9.
That's 9 votes. Didn't pass.
Just a point of order, Mr. President? Do you want to clarify for the petitioner, or maybe the no vote for whatever reason, just for next actions?
So motion was to reconsider action, and that was approved. It was laid on the table. I do correct. That was your motion, Councilor McGivern?
Well, the way I said it, Mr. President, was to reconsider our action for the purpose of laying on the table.
Yep. So motion is to reconsider action to potentially lay on the table. And I said all those in favor, all those opposed, that had approved. So the motion is to lay on the table, Councilor McGivern?
Make a motion to lay on the table.
Second.
Motion is to lay on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So you can't discuss it. It's lay on the table.
Already
That's
voted
over?
on.
Okay.
It's on the table.
It's on the table. So Councilor Vacan.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point, because I just think the people voting no appear to be voting no because they don't accept what's in the letter as a condition that would have to be required with before the special permit would be granted, which is how we do every special permit that we bring to this body. And that's why we put those in there, to protect those exact things. So I'm confused, because I was at the meeting, so I know what was discussed relative to it. So I'm confused by the no votes. And just as a point of information, I would just like to understand it, because I don't get it.
Councilor Valentin.
So I can't speak for everyone, but I'll say that I think the difference, when we look at a special permit and special conditions, it's very different if a condition of the special permit is that a business is open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which is not something that's tied to an ordinance that we have in the city, versus a condition about outstanding fines or fees, which is something, as we were talking about, that is in the ordinance that President McGee was referring to. So to me, it's two different pieces, and so I think that the mentality at this point is, you know, if you want to come forward and request a special permit, and I'm talking about in general, I'm not talking about the petitioner in this case, but just in general, then we want to know that everything is in order and you don't owe the city money, and there's, you know, your ducks are in a row before we issue a permit to you. And so for me, the way I see it is, it's very different for a special permit condition to be, you know, hours of operation versus there's an outstanding issue with money, which is referred to in terms of the ordinance.
There's no, Councilor Murphy.
And again, I'm kind of, if I thought there weren't outstanding fines, then, and it's my understanding that we can't vote for something if there are outstanding taxes or fines or fees. If that were already taken care of, I would certainly vote for this. And I do have, I mean, I was at the meeting and I did hear the applicant's concerns, and I would love to be able to pass this, but it's my understanding that if there are outstanding fines, we cannot approve a special permit. And if I'm wrong, somebody lets me know, then I would change my vote. But that's what I've been understanding, and if I'm wrong, please let me know.
Councilor Martinez?
I don't know if I recall, but there was I'm not gonna use the business name, but there was a business at one point that was requesting a, special permit, if I'm not mistaken. If they have made some, payment arrangements, at least showing some faith to do that, is that possible for the special permit to go forward if there's been there's an arrangement already made, or have anybody remember a situation of someone in the past?
Question. Good question. We have to ask legal to give an opinion on that, which is still open.
Can I ask the legal, with
Yep.
everyone's
Yeah,
permission, to give us
still
an answer
under
on that?
special rules.
Have
Yep.
we ever had a situation where someone with a special permit has owed, or, I've seen, I think, back taxes, but they made some arrangements in the past, and then, were allowed special permit with the conditions that they had to continue their installment payments, or?
So I don't know firsthand, without digging into past history, whether anyone has ever received something like that. I know for building permits, we do allow someone in a payment plan with the tax collector to receive building permits, assuming that they're up to date on their payment plan and they have one in place. For special permits, I mean, you can condition them. I believe you were stating it's your rule that fines have to be paid. There's an ordinance to that effect. In this instance, I don't know if there is a payment plan that's being sought. I can tell you there's an appeal hearing on Friday for the tickets, if that's of any help to anyone.
Anything else, Councilor?
Yeah, because I think I'm gonna rescind my vote if it's nothing in place for that. I would like to rescind my vote.
They didn't have the votes for it to pass anyways, it's on the table.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
been
no
tabled.
problem. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Crystal, where are the ticket permits heard on an appeal for a violation?
These are being heard in the housing court.
Right, and how successful are we with those housing court fines, do you know?
I can't give you a percentage success rate at this moment.
Is there someone in the law department that does housing court or fines that are appealed in the housing court? Is that under your purview?
I have done them, yes.
Okay, so in the ones that you've done, have you found that Judge Fields, Judge Fines, or Kamikaze have been successful in retrieving fines based on these types of violations?
It depends on the instance. Sometimes we settle, sometimes we waive fines, depending on what the case was.
Do you know who wrote the letter from the Conservation Commissioner?
I don't have it in front of me, no.
Does anyone in this room? Just as a reminder, please.
It was signed by Andrew Smith.
Okay, I mean, to legal again, how would the housing court judges think of a letter that was written by Conservation Commission, just in your opinion? How would they feel about it? Would a representative from the Conservation Commission show up to discuss the violations, or would the law department be so aware of the Conservation Commission issues that they would be able to adjudicate this case?
I won't speak for the housing court judges. You've been there plenty. I'm sure you know that they rule based on the facts before them.
Right, so you would be, the case on Friday, is this something that you will be attending?
Someone from our office will be attending it.
Mr. President, if I could ask Mr. Bartley, Councilor Bartley, can you tell us who please wrote the building commissioner letter?
Who wrote the building commissioner?
Yeah, tell you 1 second. Amy Cody.
Crystal, do we know that, will Damien Cody be in court on Friday?
We haven't put together our strategy for Friday yet. We actually just received the appeals, one of them today.
And the appeal is this Friday?
Yes.
Is the appellant being represented by any sort of legal team?
I can't speak for the appellant, I don't know that.
So there was no indication as whether or not the appellant on the ticket was gonna be represented legally?
Correct, we simply received the notice of hearing and a copy of the ticket.
And can we just affirm that this is a single-family house?
There's nothing built on the lot right now.
So let's just think about the money we're gonna spend on perhaps having a defunct conservation commissioner show up, a department head show up, legal show up, and I know Fridays are our holy day for Holyoke and Housing Corp., but, I mean, to oppose to a single-family house. Again, I'm not an attorney, but when you put the word shall in something, it basically means you have to do it, or we can rescind what we put on the table for you. So we're preventing someone from, we're not talking about a Walmart or a Home Depot or a casino, everything that's been shot down in Holyoke. We're talking about a guy that wants to, build a single-family house. The word shall indicates to me, and I'm certainly, the law department can chime in when they want, that means they gotta follow what they were ordered to do. I mean, this is the stigma that we're facing in this city, is that, again, we're not talking about building some huge edifice that is gonna be, helicopters are gonna be landing on top. We're talking about a single-family home here. What possibly could he do? Is he growing something that we don't know about in a single-family house? I mean, sounds like a single-family house in a basically desolate area on Northampton Street in the city of Holyoke. But let's not encourage that. Let's say, even though it says, shall be complied by, shall be complied by, in section C and D, and this is really, truly the problems that we're facing in Holyoke. Somebody wants to build something. They want to fix it, they want to build it, they want to live there, they want to pay taxes. Let's drag this out longer so we have Crystal going to housing court and perhaps the building commissioner, and we might have to subpoena Andrew Smith because he wrote the letter and he's not even here. He doesn't no longer work for us, according to the chair of the committee. And I would think that when we go to committees and when you have committee hearings, you hash this all out. This is when you hash it out. This is when you beat it up. You don't do it now for the grandstanding of it all, because I got nothing to grandstand for. What I'm grandstanding for is the fact that we all know who wrote the letters, and all of a sudden questions are popping out. Those questions could have been asked personally from one author of this letter, but we don't do that. We do it now. Now it's a big to-do. Now they'll probably leave. They'll find something else, somewhere else friendly, But the word shall, from my little legal teachings, means they have to do it, or we rescind everything. Thank you.
Counselor Bacon was
President,
next.
Thank you,
point of information,
Yeah.
point of order.
Yes.
What motion are we acting on?
I don't know, someone had a question.
All right, can we move on the agenda?
Motion is to,
President's report.
I didn't hear a second, so Counselor Bacon. All right. Yeah, it's on the table.
Yeah.
All right. So next is communications. 2 is a communication from Counselor Bartley, agreement between the City of Holyoke and Rory Casey effective March 22nd,
Oh, Mr.
2019.
President, can we take suspend rules, take as a package 2, 14, 16, and 17 as a package, and send them all to DGR, please.
Second.
Motion is take 2, you said 14, 16, 17? Take them all?
Yeah, hold on, just 14, 16, and 17, yep.
As a package, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion is receive and refer to where?
DGR, please.
DGNR, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 3 is the professional services agreement. which is effective November 19, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Motion would be finance.
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor? All opposed?
President, I don't believe there's any financial transfer with this order that I know of. Is there any indication of, is there money needed to pay for it?
There's nothing attached.
Okay, I'll read it, sorry.
4 is the Board of Health minutes.
Motion to receive.
Motion is to receive. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? 5 is the city council meetings for October, minutes for October 1st, 2019. Motion would be to receive and adopt the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? President's report, quickly. First announcement on it, the city council Christmas party is January 4th, with more information to come, but we want to get it in the calendar January 4th. Pictures for the full city council. We do have one of them in back. We got to get the frame fixed. However, our pictures for this group, we're looking for November 19th. It would be the second meeting for us. If not, if there's an issue, we can always ask the people to set up for this term. Well,
Too late.
we're still trying to catch up for that. Look
Go
at, we
back in
have
time.
two councils ago. We finally got that one done. We still have to get last term and this term. I'm figuring get this one done before we lose this one. So November 19th is the date. If you can't make it, we can always try and have them set up a side date for you. So that's the pictures before the next meeting, so probably around, Ryan will send out the email.
I'm 2 years older, so can we go back and see?
Yeah.
Mr. President,
Same.
who's taking the picture?
The Grin and Bear, right? Yeah. Correct.
Hey, I mean, I don't believe are they still a Hoyok connection?
No, they're in Connecticut.
I think we should go out to bid if we find someone in Hoyok to do this.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can
Maybe not out to bid, but request for proposal,
have Ryan look into that. I'm just trying to make sure we don't miss another cycle, which is what's been going on. From the Veteran Services, they're going to have a Veterans Career Fair November 1st from 9 to 10. So veterans, a lot of different vendors or career people will be there to help out. It's at the War Memorial. And then Legal has sent me an email today asking for an executive session. Maybe it sounded like a special meeting to deal with some financial issues. So I'm not sure how it's going to fit into the calendar, but I bring it out to your attention now. This is our last meeting before November, so I just bring it out. Did Legal have an announcement on that? Is everything all set or no?
It's litigation update, including financial transfers accordingly.
Have the financial transfers already been sent in or no?
No,
Do we have free cash certified yet?
And we don't have,
no.
all right, so that'll be
Have any?
the issue. Other than that, that's all I have for the
What's
president
the date
report.
for that executive session?
I don't have one yet.
Okay.
That came in today. I bring it to your attention. That's something we'll have to work on.
Thank you,
Councilor
Mr. President. I just want to make an announcement that there will be an informational session held at the Senior Center on Thursday at 6:30. It's a further educational forum relative to the ballot question. Thank you.
Anyone further? Seeing none, reports of committee. Ordinance 6A. Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the city of Hoyoke place a handicap sign at 11 Center Street.
We take that up with 6B together.
6A and B,
Well,
suspend the rules,
but-
take up as a package. Nope. Nope. Councilor Bacon, no.
No, they're different. Thank you.
So 6A, we're still on 6A. Recommend that it be adopted for 11 Center Street. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. The actual recommendation from our engineer on this was that we do not need to adopt an ordinance because when he went out and reviewed the area, there is already an ordinance on the books. So his recommendation was simply to reinstall the sign. So we do
for
not
A?
need ordinance change, we just need to adopt the recommendation of the engineer.
So that's for 6A.
Correct.
All right, so the motion is to receive and adopt the recommendation to install just another sign, because there's already an ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6B, community ordinance to refer in order that a handicap sign be placed at 527 South Summer Street. Recommend that be adopted.
And so on this one, the motion is to pass the first reading.
Motion to receive, adopt, pass
Second.
first reading. Our discussion, Councilor Bacon.
This is a regular request where it was reviewed and recommended by the commission that we would add handicap space. And legal language is already done.
Anyone further? Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is
Second.
passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the sign.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy? LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
Your vote, you approve the sign for that one. 6C, the committee on ordinance was referred in order at the ordinance committee with the building commissioner and the city solicitor to discuss the merits of establishing a fine for property owners who have had their property sealed off, blocking the street for past a certain period. There are at least a couple of properties where the depriving others of access to their homes and businesses with no immediate solution. Have considered the same, recommended that be complied with.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion is to
Second.
receive, adopt the committee report under discussion. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A review had been done, and in the case of one of the properties, the issue appears to be essentially resolved. The road is open. In the case of the other property, it's a more complex situation. There are safety issues that remain, and the city is trying to work with the current owner to see if there can be some different resources brought to bear to make the building safe. But until that time, we're informed that out of safety concerns and liability concerns, that needs to remain in place until a better solution can be found. So after a lot of discussion about that, the maker of the order agreed that it could be found complied with.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, and I do. I did get some contacts after the meeting, and some suggestions were made, and I think they might be pretty valid. One was that the question was, is that building being charged the vacant building registration fee that other buildings are? And I don't know the answer to that. But and the second part was, yes, they have it for sale, but with the need for the renovations and other things, the basic concept is nobody's going to buy it at that price, so it's just going to sit there. Now, I don't know if that's an accurate statement, but again, how long do we allow something to stay before we can get to do something? But I agree. I know the law department made it a point that finding people may not be the appropriate answer, but we need to find some way of moving the process along. And again, and I do think if we have vacant buildings that are charged a registration fee, and I know Council President hadn't brought that to our attention at our committee meeting last week, and this is not being assessed that fee, that it would be in fairness that they be assessed that fine.
One further motion is that it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6D, committee on ordinance was referred in order that the ordinance committee review current vacant and blight buildings ordinance by calling in the health department, the Greater Hoyoke Landlord Association, others concerned parties to address the ordinance and determine if there are any more business/landlord friendly ways to ensure vacant buildings are in compliance with the current ordinance. Recommended that's been complied with.
Motion is to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion to receive and adopt. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we had a meeting early in the year, but there was not a representative representative, I think, from the Tenants Association or a building association. So we left it tabled in case there was another group or representative that wanted to weigh in on the current ordinances. We also heard from Sean, our director of the Board of Health, and he said that so far that whole ordinance seems to be working quite well, and that they're working collaboratively with people to the extent that they can. And no other outside or interested parties showed up at the second meeting, and so the order was found to be complied with.
Okay. Councilor Martinez?
So I'm just curious, how did we get in contact with the association? Who contacted them?
The maker of the order, Councilor Bresnahan.
Okay,
I did.
you did?
I did.
Thank you.
I reached out to.
That was reported, yeah.
I reached out to like the 5 largest landowners in this, our apartment, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I reached out to the 5 and 6 largest apartment owners. This was on. They asked me to file this order years ago, or not years ago. You know, recently, just say, hey, you know, they got a fire in their building. They're trying to pull a permit. They're getting fines, et cetera, et cetera. I said, well, you know, write something that you think would work. We'll have the law department look at it. But to Councilor Murphy's point, I mean, I think that it's a you know, we can't. It's a money issue. It's tearing down the buildings. It's trying to get a receiver. But the fines, in my estimation, really are just, all we do is we find them, we put a lien on it, and then we end up owning it. I know Crystal's killing herself in the law department, but it's almost if you put it at the judge's feet and say, listen, this building's gonna fall down, we're gonna lay it at your feet, what do you suggest we do? Then it's a public forum as opposed to us, you know, keeping these buildings to our, you know, hiding it from them. I think it's certainly not anyone's fault. It's just, it's one of those nuts that we got screwed on a long time ago by letting landowners just, like, you know, burn and flee and destroy properties and do everything they did, that we've seen the Hoyoke from the 40s, 50s, and 60s be destroyed by them. So it's an ongoing battle. Thank you, Linda, for taking it back up. I appreciate it, though.
Sure.
There's no further discussion. The motion has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Finance Committee?
Mr.
Yeah, oh,
President,
sorry.
I have one more request.
Sure.
I would like us to take item 1 from the ordinance committee meeting that took place at 6 o'clock tonight.
Okay.
In chambers. We will have to have a vote to remove it from the jacket. We did not necessarily anticipate it could be completed, but the planning board did send us a recommendation in
Okay, so
recess, so we're able
motion
to
is-
act.
So you need an ordinance
So
committee?
The
to act-
order, the first motion would be to remove this order to amend the zoning to the special permits to exceed height limitation from the jacket.
All right, so motion is to remove from the ordinance committee item number 1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if you can read it from there, it's a,
Is that right?
that way we don't have to.
Okay, so item 1 was order that the city council review section 5.3.1, special permits to exceed height limitation of the zoning ordinance so that height limitations in the BH zone may be exceeded by special permit. And so we, initially, our clerk, in assisting our administrative assistant who'd been out ill, had filed all the proper ads, but there was a misstep at the paper. So those ads did not go in timely for our regular meeting where we intended to do it. So that the petitioners wouldn't be delayed further, we held our meeting at 6 o'clock tonight. So as it worked out, the planning board did make the recommendation to approve this amendment to the zoning ordinance back to committee. So committee did vote it out to the council tonight unanimously to adopt this amendment to the zoning ordinance.
So the motion would be to receive
Receive,
and adopt,
adopt, no, wait,
because it's special
we
permit.
need we need to pass the first reading.
Okay, so,
It's a zoning change.
oh,
need
okay,
to-
it's amendment to
we
the-
need
okay.
to
So
pass
motion
the
is to
first
receive,
reading.
adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the zone change, or a special permit to the zone change.
Bresnahan?
Under discussion?
Yes?
Well, that's,
Answering her.
Mr. President, we're beyond discussion, I believe.
yeah, we're past
Keep this
discussion
going.
point.
I didn't realize that there was an opportunity for discussion the way the
Oh, Counselor Lisi, what?
I mean, I don't want to, rehash all the points that I made earlier tonight, but it's different tape, so I might as well. I think when we read the recommendation from the planning board, what they are saying is that they agree that the height limitation is needed to allow applicants such as the mall to develop higher than what they would be otherwise. But a more comprehensive approach is actually more desired. And this, I think, comes out of the fact that several years ago, we've been considering a retail center district, and that would allow for more diverse sorts of tenants to come into the area around Whiting Farms Road. It would also clean up the patchwork zoning that's in that area and bring all the different, parcel owners that range from IG to IP to BH and BG under the same sort of blanket. You have the same sorts of large-scale retail centers competing with one another on a level playing field. I think we really want to be sensitive to the changing nature of retail. We see that the mall is doing a good job diversifying its tenant base and continuing to have a high rate of tenancy in the building, but there's other parcels that have not been able to keep up with the changing nature of retail, and we're losing Pier 1 and Kowloon, it seems. So I think we really need to, we had an opportunity about 4 years ago to move forward on creating this retail center district that would be sensitive to these, again, changing needs of our retail base, especially large-scale retail in the Whiting Farms corridor. So I would hope that we could bring that up again and move forward on it, because it's not just height limitations that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Just looking actually for the order, so we have it.
I had it at the committee meeting.
I just gave it to you.
You had it?
Oh, yeah, there was an extra agenda copy.
Oh, okay. So
That's what I had.
this was the agenda. Yeah, I need the order. All right, we'll track it down. I just want to make sure we keep it in order.
We did have it in committee. I don't know if somebody might have picked it up. Can
That's fine.
check or
All right, so we'll just make sure we track it correctly.
just be sure you don't have it. It was just a single page. Just in case. I'm just not seeing it in mine.
There was a lot of papers out of it.
It's not attached to the zone change order, is it, Ryan?
I don't think so.
All right, we'll find it. I just wanted to make sure.
But
All right.
it was before us.
Motion is that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the height increase.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
PC?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Aiken?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgo?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approve. Now we're off to, any more from?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now we're off to 7A, which is Finance. Committee on Finance referred $9,000 from Chief of Wires to inspections.
Your motion to receive, pass first reading.
Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading under discussion. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. We took this vote a couple times during the last fiscal year. It's the first time this year, fiscal year. This is the building department. Mr. Cody's position, known as the paid chief of wires, is still vacant. He is still attempting to fill that position with a qualified master electrician. When he doesn't have that position or any of these positions, inspecting positions filled, he needs to have the work performed by someone else, either New using a retired gentleman from another community who is a master electrician who does the work, and he just is asking us to transfer the $9,000 out of the salary line item into the line item which he can pay the gentleman out of, which is inspections electrical. The committee recommended, with one abstention, the committee recommended 3-0 to adopt the transfer.
Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would be to pass the second reading. Need a second?
Second.
Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the
Sorry.
transfer.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Abstain.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Abstain.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
11 yeas, 2 abstains.
With your vote, you're approved. 7A. 7B is, let's see, Committee on Finance was referred, Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, that the council hereby accept the replacement grant. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Or discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a grant the city received from the Mass Department of Ecological Restoration for $67,500. There is no match to it. It is for the purpose of doing the upfront engineering, design, and permitting process to replace a 24-inch corrugated metal culvert that would carry Broad Brook below Keys Road, about 700 feet below east of County Road. The Department of Public Works and Engineer gave us the information. There is a time constraint where this work needs to be done in order to take advantage of the grant, needs to be done and completed by July 1 of 2020, so I guess the permitting and design has to be done by then. The committee recommends on a 4-0 vote that the grant be accepted and necessary administration of grant be put in place.
There's no further discussion. Motion to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant.
Yes.
Bresnahan, Leahy,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan, Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
President, make a motion to suspend rules to take 7C and 7D together.
Motion to suspend
Second.
rules, take up C and D as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? C is the Committee on Finance to refer in order that the Finance Committee invite in Mayor LaChapelle to discuss their options that they use in East Hampton regarding new schools. And 7D is similar order.
The motion would be to adopt the committee report that both orders were complied with.
Motion
Second.
to receive, adopt, that they're comply with, or discussion. Councilor McGivern.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm going to just outline an hour-and-a-half meeting with Mayor LaChapelle and allow both the makers of the orders and other members of the committee and other members that were present that asked Mayor LaChapelle a number of different questions, which she was both very competent but also very graceful to spend an hour and a half with us and answer all our questions after making a good half-hour presentation on the East Hampton story. The make of the orders, Councilor Lisi and Councilor McGee, they're very similar, as the President said in reading in nature, and they were to invite Mayor LaChapelle in. Nicole gave us the East Hampton story of their dealing with both the MSBA. They did a 2-year plan similar to what Holyoke has done on the need for building new schools. I did a plan, involving, just as Holyoke has done, involving members of the community, members of the council, members of the school department, members of the city council, on top of a number of different, I believe, a parent and a number of different department heads. And they came up with a plan that was presented to the MSBA. Some similarities to Holyoke. Their plan cost is $109 million. It would consolidate their schools together, which is different, being that they would make one school, which would be K through 8, right?
Pre-K.
Sorry, and preschool through 8. A good question is asked just interject that real quick about why they would want to do that. And she says the way that they convinced the community and people that were involved in the planning is the design of the building takes into deep consideration of the different ages of the students and how to separate them, even though it's only one building. The cost of the building, $109 million. There some similarities, but difference is their best they can do with the MSBA is 63.5%, which when we went down and looked at the construction cap becomes more like, or will become more like 44 and 49%. They went forward, the city council did not vote on the bond until after the override vote itself. And they also went forward on a number of different things in terms of what is not covered by the MSBA, what is eligible and how to pay for that. They also have a plan to do what would become 3 vacant schools, and they hope to get at least 2 of them out there and to sell them, and one of them they're looking to reuse itself. Some of the differences with East Hampton, I'm sorry, the amount that they're projecting on the homeowners bill, and let me explain one of the differences, but it's about it's actually a property bill, $543 for each property owner. That's an average. The change is a 2.6% change. Their bond rating recently went from AA to AA+, which I think listening to our financial advisor, that is something that we'd love to see the city of Hoyoke go to sometime, and hopefully in the near future, because the advantage of a AA+ is a big difference from where we stand at our rating at the moment. They do have bids out, which is a little different than us. And one of the differences between the city of Hoyoke and East Hampton is they do not take advantage of tax classification, meaning they don't split the property taxes themselves. Commercial property, residential property, personal property is all grouped together as one. So it's not, there's no split difference in the different types of property that are owned out there. I couldn't say enough thank yous. I will say publicly thank you to Mayor LaChapelle for taking time with us. She was very in depth with her presentation of East Hampton. She talked about how they went after the override, how they presented it to the community. They did a fact sheet. They have and I think it's still up and going, a fact sheet that answers questions from the community using social media. They went in detail to answer every question that came before them and post the answers on social media so that it's there, both I believe their website, I believe that they have a Facebook that is just dedicated to this subject itself. She talked about a lot of the difference. Mayor LaChapelle is no stranger to the city of Hoyoke. She understood some of our different economic issues and certainly understood what the MSBA does in terms of and they did qualify for incentives, which is interesting because, as you know, there are 5 incentives out there that can bring you above what the MSBA cap is. Unfortunately, because we're an 80% community, we automatically, even though we're not getting 80%, we cannot get those incentives, which has been a bone of contention for a number of us since we looked at this project. We did a 2-year planning phase. We spent $1.3 million on the design and on the front planning and property acquisition. We also have the 80% on the 1.3, but as you know, what the MSBA voted on in August, we're getting about 59% of the total cost of the project. After that, the questions and answers, I won't take away from those that ask questions and answers if they want to bring them up. But again, Mayor LaChapelle answered each of them. There was one of the questions I did ask her myself was, what was the general feeling of the business community within East Hampton? Because I think they have a very vibrant business community, which is growing as we speak. And she said generally it was favorable to the override question. Some came out in support. There was not a lot of negativity from the business community in terms of not passing the override question itself. And again, the city council voted on the bond itself after the override vote. The only thing that we might have been in disagreement with or start to have a little discussion about is I pointed out that it's been brought to my attention that when Dr. Zeus was on top of Mount Tom, he may not have been looking at East Hampton, but actually looking at Holyoke when he wrote about Whoville and a couple of the stories that he wrote. But she said, "Don't go there, Joe," and I took her advice and backed off.
Any further discussion? Councilor Lisi.
Thanks. As always, Councilor McGivern ran a really great meeting, and the level of detail that came out from Mayor LaChapelle was really incredible and really helpful. A couple of things I just want to note, just working off of the report that Joe gave. They were in a 2-year planning phase with their building committee for this particular project, but they were in the pipeline for MSBA funding for 10 years. So for 10 years, they were trying to get money and they had failed proposals. And it's because they were trying to remedy only one of their 3 F-rated 100-year-old schools. And the consolidated pre-K to 8 plan was the recommendation that the MSBA made to the city of East Hampton in order to secure the grant they did. But it was not something that the community was really in favor of. They really wanted to keep their elementary school, middle school model, but they were able to I guess come to an agreement with the community based on the physical structure of the school that separated the different age groups into different wings. Just want to also point out, so like their consolidated pre-K through 8 single school was $109 million. We're working on building 2 new middle schools for $132 million. When the voters in East Hampton went to the polls, they were voting on a range. The forecast projections were a range of $684 to $1,100, which would be analogous to our $130 to $190 tax increase. So people in East Hampton went to the polls expecting, at minimum, roughly $700 tax increase, and what they wound up was with the roughly $550 tax increase. In Holyoke, voters are being asked to go to the polls with an anticipated tax increase of somewhere between $130 and $190, and so it's likely to come in lower based on the interest rate environment and also the grants that they were able to secure to reimburse the city for the non-reimbursables from the MSBA. And I think, that's it. The only other thing that East Hampton did that was, interesting was they were able to secure a 2.6% interest rate, and that was last year. And they went for a 20-year bond because they felt that it was worth paying a little bit more in tax bills annually than having to lop interest on for an additional 10 years. So at the end of the day, East Hampton was very aggressive in going after the bond rating and the bonding. And as Councilor McKibben noted, that did happen following the ballot referendum vote. It took about 6 months following the referendum vote. We don't have that timeline here, so I hope folks are reading up on the issue. There are fact sheets on the Holyoke Public Schools website, and so there's a landing page for the middle school redesign, and that's where you can find fact sheets and other information pertaining to the middle school redesign plan, and I think how the vote will affect the community.
Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I attempted to listen to the Finance Committee meeting at home, but there was no sound. And then I had a conflict later on into the meeting, but I want to make 2 points. I commend East Hampton for, one, having a single tax rate, because that is the sign of a financially healthy community when everybody's paying the same rate. So it's a compliment to them, but to compare the communities is pretty much apples and oranges. And relative to the proposed cost to the citizens, when this proposal first came out, the anticipated cost for the average homeowner was estimated at $250. Then about a week before we had the forum at the senior center, $1 million pay down per year from the schools to the bond was factored in to lower the rate. And the interest rates that had been used to calculate were cut approximately in half. And that is how the projected cost for the homeowner got reduced from $250 to $130. I have called publicly and repeatedly for our city webpage to be updated, for that to be removed. There is no legal way for the schools to commit to paying down on the bond for 20, 25, or 30 years. There's also no legal way that was discussed in finance for the city to enter into a contract for 20, 25, or 30 years to cure $1 million in another way. So whether we think this is an affordable idea, a good idea, or a bad idea is not my point here. My point here is that when people are trying to make a decision, they need to have accurate, supported information from which to make their decision. And I have addressed this through the chief of staff. I have addressed it through Dr. Zreich personally, and yet it remains on our city website and is repeated in every publication. You cannot truthfully factor in $1 million deduction. We don't know for sure what the savings will be. We won't be going to bond for at least 3 years. We don't know what the interest rates will be. So I just think, in fairness to the people we represent and to garner trust in the transparency in our government, we need to stick with the initial estimate. Then, if we're able to bring to bear this $1 million, then it could possibly be less in the future. But to say that that will be the cost is just a bridge too far, because there is nothing contractually or legally that supports it. So I really hope that we will fix the city website. We are all able to make theoreticals. If this is this, then that is that, and that's true. But you can't say it will be such unless you have a valid, binding contract that actually stipulates that. So I really hope that we can do that so people can make a truly informed decision at the ballot box. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I do want to thank Mayor LaChapelle for coming in. As everybody in the city knows, she's no stranger to the great city of Holyoke, along with her father and her brother Chris. Very good people. And having her come in to talk about the process and giving her time frame in East Hampton, it was a lot of information, and she gave us the exact timeline. And her memory is absolutely incredible, and how she did have some notes there, but she knew the dates, and she knew the times, and she knew the prices, and she knew all the facts and figures. It's interesting enough that, they're going to be getting, or they got 63.5% reimbursed, but after they made several different changes themselves, it's dropping down to about 44 or 49%. I forget exactly which one she said, because one of the issues they have outside the school is like traffic, and there was a bunch of accidents, so they decided to put a roundabout in there. One of the other interesting tidbits that I got from her was she wanted 2 schools, but the city wanted 1 school. So now they have one that is pretty much about 1,000 students. I guess they're kind of similar to where we wanted to be. We're at 550 students per building. One of the other interesting things is they looked at geothermal heat versus natural gas. And as everybody in the city of Holyoke knows, that we are at our limit for natural gas. So I believe that it's in the details that these 2 new schools will be put on electric, which will be very interesting to see how that happens. I also think that, as somebody mentioned, the rolling fact sheet. The City of Holyoke's website doesn't have it front and center as well as it should be. It's also, I think, pretty much outdated compared to East Hampton's, where she said that to limit the fake news, I said the fake news, limit all the information that's going abuzz, whether it's on Facebook or whatnot. Every time they heard a question, they got the answer. So there was no, running of the waters with numbers and whatnot. And if you go on the East Hampton's page, it's right there. It's something that we should be doing too. Every time that there's something that is misleading or not, we should have the answer. We should have it in one central place, and I believe it should be considered on the city's website and also the school committee's website too. But having said all that, I do want to thank Nicole, or Mayor LaChapelle, for her time. It was a very informative meeting. Thank you.
With that, if there's no further discussion, I'll just say that I appreciate the mayor coming in. It's nice to have someone from another area to come in and provide their viewpoint as to what they went through and actually help us in our process. So it greatly appreciate it. Councilor Gibbon?
Just on the legal issue brought up by Councilor Bacon, I understand that issue very well, and it's something that is trouble, I think, a lot of us in trying to determine what is the final number that we would actually borrow versus what could be the final number we would actually borrow. And quite frankly, the reason that number is not in the ballot question is because we're not going to know it until we take that final vote on bonding. The legal department made it clear that we cannot legally enter into a 20-year, 30-year contract with the schools on paying $1 million towards the bond under any circumstances. However, it doesn't say that the schools can't pay money through their administrative costs to offset that bond. And that's being explored by Dr. Drake with the Department of Ed to see what type of MOU could be issued, that would confirm that the schools will be paying X amount of dollars to pay off the bond itself. Unfortunately, I think the legal department is correct. That's not going to be a 30-year commitment, regardless of what anyone says, but they are exploring that with the Department of Ed.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, again, just in agreement with Councilor Bacon and others, I do think whatever we have needs to be the accurate information that we have. And at this point, while the schools may want to make every effort to pay $1 million, there is no commitment that is binding, not only for the first year, but for any of the other 30 years. So I do agree that should be taken off the website if it hasn't, and I've been suggesting that for the last 3 weeks. A couple other things, and again, I also would like to thank Mayor LaChapelle because she was very informative. But as I asked what their yearly payment was, and it was $4.5 million for the first year, $4.5 million the next year, and I wish I had said, and what is it for the next 18 after that, and I didn't ask that question because I know the chairman was saying we got to move this along. But so if that was the case, and if in fact, and again, I don't know if it's a 20-year, $4.5 million, but if that's the case, then East Hampton, with a better interest rate at 2.6% and a 20-year bond, was going to be paying more money than we're estimating on our website for $132 million in 30 years and at 3%, which would be, based on the estimate, would be $84 million. So again, they may have a different payment schedule, and I think if we could find out, that would be beneficial, because as I looked at it, I went back and I said, well, wait a minute, that's $90 million over 20 years, and ours is $84 million over 30 years, and we pay a higher rate, so that does not make sense. So I don't know if there's a way to get and ask that.
You can always follow up with her to get that answered. Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. I think I have the answer. So if you remember some of the meetings that we had with Cinder, she presented two different scenarios for paying back the debt. One was level funding and one was level debt. Level debt is the option that we're working with, where the payments are equal over the extent of the bond. So 30-year bond, 25-year bond, 20-year bond, whatever it is. Each year, there's a set amount that's due, and it's the same amount over the 30 years. The level funding, I forget how that gets structured, except that in the front, you're paying more, and it staggers downward. And I think there's some way that you actually would set that up to do level funding. And I think that has to do with the interest payments and interest rates, but it's a lot more, there's a lot more moving parts to that scenario. The value, what I heard Cinder say when she came into us was that you pay more down more quickly, so you're paying less interest over the course of the bond. Even a 20-year bond to a 20-year bond, you're paying less interest with the level funding rather than the level debt. They felt that it was more equitable to extend the payments out evenly over the course of the life of the building, since multiple you know, families over the years to be able to enjoy the value and benefit of the school. So that was the difference there.
There's nothing further. Thanks. Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to clarify that as far as bonding goes, it's not 3 years as far as locking in a rate. If this moves, you know, through the voters approve it and it comes to city council and we approve a bond, the rate can be locked in shortly after the approval of a bond. It doesn't have to wait 3 years. So, and this is for Hilltop Securities, so you can take it up with Cinder. I'm just putting a fact out here, and to Councilor Leahy's point, I think this is why it's very important that we get some accurate information. There's so much disinformation going on both on Facebook, Mass Live, through all the parties involved, to get something established where we really get all the true facts out there for the voters to see.
So, yep, Councilor Ricken?
Just briefly, I reached out to the chief of staff relative to that very comment that was made, the bonds could be locked in. So I asked him, I said, so does that mean we have to start paying on the bond if you're going to lock it in? He said he would go back and issue a general release on the specifics. I said, because at the forum, our treasurer told us as the building goes on, short-term bans are issued. When it's completed, we go to the long-term bonding. He never answered further. So he has not answered that question. That is not a factual matter on record. He only made that statement on Hello Holyoke.
So we can get the answer as well in writing. With regards to these two, C and D, it's that they've been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8, there's no public safety, public service. We did 9A. 9B is done. So we're on to 9C. Counselor, do you want to take up C, D, E, F as a package because they're all related or somewhat related?
Let's do it.
Motion to take up C, D, E, and F as a package for discussion. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there is.
On today's
Turn the page.
updated agenda.
Where's the wrong agenda, my friend? The where's F?
They passed another one.
All right, nonetheless, we'll get going. You want for that?
C is the Committee on Public Service was referred to the city, Holyoke Water Department, address the fire hydrants. D is also that the Water Commissioner,
10.
Fire Department, et cetera, come in to discuss the Fairfield Ave fire as well as the fire hydrants and the bonds that was gone with the Water Department on that. E is that the Water Department come before Public Service to address the fire hydrants, and F is that the Water Department come before Public Service with regards to the tap water. Our discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yes, thank you. So combining all these, what I'll do is I'll try to give you the objective and our discussion and the outcomes of the meeting. As Councilor Bartley pointed out earlier today, we did have it was a huge night. We had a lot on the agenda, and we tried to doing it as thoroughly as we possibly could. So pretty much the objective is all those orders that we just had read. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring the mayor, Dave Conti, who's the superintendent of the public, superintendent of the water department, also the commissioners. All three came in. Mr. Harbliss, Mr. Jourdain, and Mr. Barrett, and they always have insightful information. And also Chief Pond came in. The mayor was somewhere else and couldn't make it in. So what we wanted to do is just read those or discuss those orders. First one was the tragic fire in Fairfield Ave. Second one is discoloration of the water throughout the community. And the third one is I want to make sure that an order that I filed some time ago gets utilized, is the use of the city's robo phone system. So under discussion, one of the things we brought up is lack of flushing. So 2 years ago, maybe a little over 2 years ago, the commissioners of the water department decided to stop flushing because of cost. That was stated at the meeting. now, because of state mandate, they are now going to have to flush hydrants every year. And Mr. Conti said that's going to happen in the spring. The city council also approved a bond about 13.3 million. And that's in regards to 3 different phases. And if you guys remember, I think it was 2018, maybe the end of 2017, Dave Conti came in with the commissioners and he gave us all a color-coded sheet. Do you guys remember that? And it was different colors indicating what was of high needs and high priority, down to, you know, everything is a priority, obviously, but some are just more advantageous to do now. And Fairfield Ave is on that. I believe that the water commissioners just voted to do this in the last meeting a couple of weeks ago. So the 3 phases are, the first one is going to be the lower wards in regards to a lot of the CSO. The second one is Fairfield Ave, Walnut Street, Portland Street, and I believe Elm Street, Morgan Street. What else we discussed was the city of Holyoke has 160 miles of pipe throughout the city, or I should say the city proper. 38 of those miles are in West Holyoke. Now, this is something that actually brought your name, Councilor Vacan, because I think this is very interesting. 730,000 gallons were used to put out the fire at Fairfield Ave. West Holyoke only has the capacity right now for 500,000 gallons. And so if a fire like that happened, they're not going to have that access to water up front. So part of this bond is to improve that. Dave Conti wants, by the time this bond is done, to have at least $1 million gallons of water in reserve for West Holyoke. That's good news. Also, moving on from that, well, not moving on from that. So one of the outcomes for Fairfield Ave was they have 2 pipes, 2 6-inch pipes that are probably reduced down to maybe 2 inches or 3 inches because these pipes were built in 1863, I believe. One of the pipes goes all the way down the center of Fairfield, and the second one goes, I believe they said, on the east driving pattern, so it goes down the east side of the street. That's going to be about $2 million to replace that in some surrounding areas. They're going to be doing that sooner than later. Also, what happened was when they opened the first hydrant, it wasn't working. I think about 200 gallons were coming out of it, which is not significant. When they got to the second hydrant, because the first hydrant, it was on the same line, that reduced the gallons, which they were hoping at least 500 gallons, down to about 250 gallons. So they didn't have enough water, those two. They went to the third, and it took some time, but they got to it. Then they had sufficient water at that point. So one of the orders that I filed was I wanted an assessment ASAP of these hydrants, making sure that we knew the ones that are working, the ones that were not working, the ones that had high flow, the ones that have high flow. And Dave Conti is actually in the process of completing that. And what he's doing is he's putting these on every fireman's or fire lady iPad and computer. So they get to any sort of fire, GPS or whatnot, they're going to know which hydrants are the good hydrants to use and which hydrants they can't use. Having said that, they are going to give us the status of all the hydrants if you'd like them. Also, there's a policy change. Anytime that there's a fire now, whether it's at nighttime or during the day, 2 water department staff will be on call. One person will go downtown, and they will increase the water flow if needed, and the second person will go up to the fire itself, making sure that hydrant is easily accessible, make sure it works, make sure that it's opened, and afterwards the person's going to do an assessment, making sure that everything is working functionally. So that's that. The next order that we had was an order that I filed because people were complaining all over Holyoke or whatnot about the discoloration of the water throughout the community. And there were several reasons for that. The biggest reason was piping near Amazon and all the surrounding streets. They're changing the pipes. They're taking out the old ones, they're putting new ones in, they're mixing the new ones with the old ones. Every time they do anything with the water, it's going to discolor the water. This is where I said that the city's robocall should have been working. In that neighborhood, all those residents should have known not to utilize your shower, change your ice in your ice machine, that sort of thing. That's an order that I filed a long time ago, and that has to be utilized because none of the neighbors knew. Then we had 2 big water main breaks, which happened on the same day, George Street, and also I believe the other one was on Lenox Ave. Same day, 2 big water main breaks. So that led to a lot of discoloration in all the neighborhoods. There were high-flowing ones, so all the neighbors from all the different streets too were affected. That again, the city's robocall system should have been in effect to notify those people. I'm just happy the superintendent, his commissioners, they came in, Chief Bond, they gave us a lot of good information, and that's pretty much it. We had some other counselors too, so if anybody wants to add to that, feel free.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, it was a very informative meeting, and one thing that we went up to the table up there and looked at the map for the need of an additional $6.5 million bond to upgrade all of the pipes throughout the city so that fire protection would be at its maximum capacity. And I know the chief was looking forward to that, and I just want to encourage the mayor. I would love to see them try to come up with the bond in the very near future so they can start planning that process. That would, I think, be was it 2022 or 23, something along those.
2020 for the Fairfield Ave construction.
Okay. And words for 2020 as well, I think. But then there are other parts, and I think this would be a 4th stage.
Smith's Ferry, that's the 3rd pillar.
Okay. So again, I mean, we know right now that these areas do not have water pressure capacity to provide maximum fire protection or maximum fire prevention. So I just want to encourage the mayor to work with the water department and get that $6.5 million bond in front of us so that throughout the city, all parts of our city have the best fire protection capacity that we can have. And it was a great meeting, and I do think Councilor Lee did a great job.
Thank you.
Councilor Aaron?
I agree with Councilor Murphy and commend our chairman very much for a very informative meeting, but also for the way he ran the meeting, because we got a lot of information before us. As always, Dave Conti is amazing, and we made it very clear to the commissioners that Dave Conti will not be retiring until these projects are completed, 100%. Not too sure David understood that or committed to it, but I think he got the message. I think Councilor Murphy's point is good, but I believe, Jim, I think the committee actually voted that not only are the orders complied with, but we would ask the city council to refer our recommendation to the mayor that he would take into consideration the additional bonding. And then the map that they presented to us has several colored in orange, but several spots of key areas where if the lines were replaced immediately, the water pressure would increase to a number of different neighborhoods where there are problems. One thing too, I'm not sure if Jim mentioned, was in the Fairview Avenue area. I mean, as he stated, these pipes are easily, all of them, between Pearl Street, Fairview Avenue, and Morgan Street, 140 years old. There's an immediate fix that they're going to do, nothing to do with the bonding, and it's to do with the water lines up on Northampton Street, and it's going to give some additional pressure to the area, and to do a quick fix immediately, just for a temporary quick fix immediately, before this project can take place to replace those lines. So I just commend the presentation, and I think it was fantastic. And I mean, we're in a situation where we live in a city that is, seeing its glory days, and we have to replace what took place many years ago and get it up to speed. And it's very costly to replace the 200 miles of pipe overnight. And I think the plan the water department came up with that we voted on earlier this year. And if we can get the mayor to amend that plan and do some additional bonding, I think will be very useful. One of the nice things about the bonding, when we bond for the water department, is because it's paid for by the user rate. That's not the nice thing about it, but the nice thing about it is it doesn't have that same direct impact on our capacity. We have to do it as a city, but the Wall Street does recognize, and we are recognized that the same thing with the gas and electric, that the source of paying off their bonds is different than the city revenue itself.
So motion is that C, D, E, and F are complied with a recommendation, or with a copy to the mayor asking for additional funding of $6.5 million.
Yes.
So on that
Aye.
amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, Counselor Bacon?
I just wanted to make one brief comment. I wanted to thank the chair for the update on the capacity issue out in West Holyoke. And I also wanted to just make a comment that I know our superintendent, Dave Conti, is looking at the potential of a loop at Amazon, so that hopefully then the residents would not have to be dealing with all the testing they're going to have to do for their fire suppression system that will cause this to happen every time. So I'm looking forward to an update from him as to whether that can happen to resolve the problem out there in Homestead and that neighborhood. So thank you.
So C, D, E, and F are complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? On to 10, which is
Mr.
DGNR.
President, can we suspend and take as a package 10A, B, C, D, and E?
Motion to suspend
Second.
rules, take up A, B, C, D, and E as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? A is that DGNR committee meet with the superintendent of DPW, health director to seek solutions to problem city-owned and vacant lots. It's complied with. B is that DGNR, to whom was referred, that the Park and Recreation Director, Community Development Director, and Public Works Superintendent appear before DGNR, discuss plans for needed funding for upgrades to Springdale Park. C, 10C is with regards to the alleyways on Main Street and Sargent and Hamilton. They need immediate action for long-term action for a dangerous situation. D is that discussion should include types for planting trees on the city streets. And then finally, E is that DGNR invited in the mayor, director of plan development, director of housing authority to seek ways to include parking lot at the corner of Clemente, Hamilton, South Holyoke housing redevelopment around Carlos Vega Park. All have been recommended that have been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor.
Motion just to receive and adopt the committee report on discussion. Basically, these are Councilor Murphy's orders. I'm gonna pass the baton over to Councilor Murphy. We took these up. We had a good discussion with the department heads. I think it was a very informative meeting, and but I think really it's Councilor Murphy's ball, so I'll pass it to him. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, thank you. And we did get some good information on there. One thing I want to thank the superintendent and the director of Board of Health. We talked about the vacant lots, and there are approximately 40 city-owned vacant lots, which they are going to try to come up with a 2 to 3 week regular upkeep if possible. So at least now they're on the agenda to not wait for a complaint, to try to deal with them on a regular basis. Regarding the Springdale situation, it was originally, we were working on plans, and then some of the funding removed during the process of community development last year. But they're looking at upgrading play equipment, fencing at the ball fields, and also trying to create safer play areas and picnic areas by creating better entrance and parking aspects. The main and Sargent Street, again, goes back to the idea that we need to put some money into demolition. The recommendation is that there are properties there that need to be demolished in order to make the area safe. I will, and I think the superintendent and the engineer regarding the idea of planting trees, they have now developed a blueprint which they will use in terms of planning for future reference. One of those things is to make sure that if a bigger sidewalk area, so that the trees won't be upgrading, which would be making, number one, the sidewalk safer, and the potential of planting trees in a environmentally friendly area without causing extra expense otherwise. But they are developing a plan which they're going to recommend that be used whenever we are planting trees on city sidewalks. And I do thank the county chair for putting up and putting all these on the agenda, and all of the various people for coming in and offering their comments.
All right, so motion that they've all been complied with. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Mr. President.
10G. Yep.
I would make a motion that the president of the city council leave the meeting and get in his car and start driving to Pennsylvania.
Second. All right, I'll call Joe up for the rest of the agenda. I have been requested by work to travel to Pennsylvania to teach early in the morning. So we've gotten through everything that needs to be voted on, and I'll turn it over to Councilor McGivern for
Lightning round.
10G1.
Safe drive.
Safe travels, yes.
And then orders. So I do thank you.
With no objection, we will take us through the rest of the meeting. If anybody wants to object, I'll sit back down. Item 10G is a community development, from the Community Development and Government Relations to in order that the Honorable City Council approve a grant to One Holyoke CDC as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee in the amount of $32,000 for 43 Canal Street. With both recommendations that the order be adopted with a strong recommendation that the DGR Committee that the building, that One Holyoke would consider renaming the building in honor of George Adams.
Motions to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion made, seconded, receive and adopt. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
This is a friendly amendment. I just want to replace the word "one" with "attorney."
Oh.
So that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Amendment, a friendly amendment made in second to replace the word "one" with "attorney," correct?
Correct.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
And then on the main motion, this is a good project from the CPA committee. I think as always they do a really nice job and get us some good some really good projects. This is the first one actually we sent to the DGR committee, so we were grateful to review it and instead of just doing it on the floor. But I think it's a better way, frankly, and I hope the majority of them will go to committee, whatever committee that wants to charge this, doesn't matter. But I think it's better than just kind of coming through the floor and having these discussions on the floor. So with that, I felt like we did hear from Mark Dunn, the mayor, former state senator, current lawyer in the city, and who represented One Holyoke CDC. Marty always does a good job explaining what's happening. Essentially, this is going to be for exterior repair, and it's going to be used as a community center. It's going to be like the real value in Ward 1. And just on the last part right there, that's something that I pushed for. Can't get a commitment at this point, and Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I do understand why that is, but I don't think it's a little more significant than having a plaque up in a room that everybody will pass by, Mr. President. I think those of us who remember all the events that were held there, really single-handedly run by George. I think that building probably would have, it was names, if it was a Portuguese-American club, Mr. President. I think George being a Portuguese-American, I think with his parents still here, especially one of his father, I just spent Saturday afternoon with him at the house. Father coming at the dialysis. It would be nice if power to be. We didn't want to make it contingent upon namings. That's why we said strongly recommend in the strongest terms possible. And Attorney Dunn said he would bring it back to One Holyoke CDC. I don't think this is a super big ask, especially when you're coming back, again, you see, Mr. President, that repeatedly comes to city government for more and more and more and more money, and repeatedly gets it every single time. And now the ask is for us to say, name the building after a Portuguese American who, I think, and those of us with any kind of a memory would probably agree that Attorney Neves did a lot for that building and kept that club afloat for many years. But I can't get a commitment to that. So that's why we said strongly recommend, and that was a unanimous vote. I don't know, I know Attorney Dunn will do his best to carry that forward to One Holyoke CDC. Again, this is an agency that really comes all the time for CDBG coming back, other things. They always get it. Now we ask it, geez, we have a committee, and okay. So that's why we put strongly recommend on it. Hopefully the answer will be, counselors, yeah, we're going to accept your recommendation. I don't have that answer yet, Mr. President, but I think in terms of George Neves, he's too young. His parents are still with us. It would be a really nice touch for the city of Holyoke to do something like that for him. Nope.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley, and I just wanted to apologize because I know I told you on Saturday I'd be home on the top of the Great Lakes streets to allow you a little rest stop on Downing Ave. my other half said we were going north to see the leaves and get our pumpkin and mum, so she won. Any other discussion? Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, I think that anything in tribute to my my good friend George Neves is something not only should we strongly suggest, I think it should just be done, or we use the word shall a lot tonight. I think it shall be done. George was just a great man, a great friend, great father, great husband. Just a tremendous loss. Thank you.
Any further discussion? On a motion to adopt the committee report with that one amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. That's it for no charter and rules, no joint city council committee report. We're moving on to motion, orders, and resolutions, starting with item 13, introduced by Councilor Bartley. This is that the law department in Problem Property Group provides its regular 6-month update of the city's receivership program and any other relevant issue referred to DGR. The copy of the law department plans to make a committee presentation November, December.
Receive and refer.
Receive for the committee and DGR. Councilor Bartley. All those any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We already acted on item 14. Item 15 is introduced by Councilor Bartley. The Mayor, Building Commissioner, DPW Superintendent provided an update to the City Council regarding the city's plans to free up Walnut Street from the fencing that has blocked it since February 2018. The city officials should determine the cost associated, well as the funding source. Copy to the fire department for its feedback regarding fire protection for the area while the fencing remains in place.
Motion refer to public safety.
Motion made and received for the Committee on Public Safety. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, with the copies aforesaid, Mr. President.
Copies as dictated in the order. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, I just think the idea of having the fire department, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because, I've been thinking the same thing when I put the other order in, that how would a fire department get there? They'd have to go around, so I think that's a great order.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, it is.
Mr. President, what?
Yeah, Walnut.
Yeah, that's the. No, I agree. That's the church, right?
There's no further discussion on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 16, we've already taken care of. 17 is done.
18, 19.
18 and 19 are done. Moving on to item, did we do 19?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to item 20. Introduced by Councilor LeBron Martinez, per English Spanish residents requested all minutes from the City Council school committee meetings be translated and uploaded on the Holyoke City website, TV coverage of every council and school committee meetings, and subtitles with TV showings.
It would go where? To ordinance or would go?
Public service.
Service? Okay, to public service.
Motion has been made and seconded to refer to Committee on Public Service. Police, the Holyoke Media,
Holyoke Media Police, and also to the school committee.
and to the school committee.
To the attention of the Dr. Shrike, please.
I think school committee, I think Liz LaFond would be, a good person to get their input, or, plus the school committee. Any further discussion? Speaks for itself. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 21, introduced by Councilor LeBron Martinez, that the clerk office assure that Room 1 Mayor's Office receives copies of all city council agendas and all committee meetings and will appear on the city website for communication, for direct communication purposes.
Public service as well, right? Or would it be, it's clear, or it doesn't have to go to public service? No?
Just receive and adopt.
City clerk?
Receive, refer to city clerk. Adopt, refer to city clerk.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Aye. All those in
no.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 22, introduced by Councilor Martinez. It's an order that per request of residents that the orders have gone through committees and being reported to the council for a vote, list the name in front of the order with the agenda of two to be easier to follow and have filed the particular order in the first place to better understand the discussion.
Go to charter.
Motion received for the Committee on Charter and Rules. Any discussion? And should we do a copy to Wally for some IT assistance?
If it's needed, yes, wherever it's in their interest. So can I,
Excuse me.
seeing that it's going to go to committee, does anybody need any clarification on the reasoning of it, or should I, it's okay? Thank you.
Yes.
Can we,
On the motion, there's some stuff that has to be brought up.
that again?
Lights are off in the city hall. Does somebody know something?
Oh, it's-
There it is.
there it is.
On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 22, introduced by Councilor LeBron Martinez. The DPW will work on the pedestrian crossing lines around Commercial Street, especially on areas where children are crossing in the area of the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club and other areas of the city that have not yet been completed. Motion received, adopt, refer to DPW.
Yes, I also want to give them kudos. I don't know if they seen the agenda, but I also seen today that a lot of the areas that I actually had driven by to check on that had been mostly done. I don't know if people seen this week.
Yeah.
They've
It
done
was last week.
a lot of them
Real-
they've done, so I appreciate
today.
that. But to continue, I just want to keep that on the agenda because I witnessed a young kid crossing the guard by Commercial who almost got hit by a car. And I want to make sure that we're covering for safety reasons. Thank you.
Good order. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
Can we do a 23, 24,
24.
25, 26, 27, 28, 29 together and send to finance?
Second.
Everything but 28. Better run that tonight. The firefighters?
Councilor Murphy wrote the top
Yeah.
so let's take that out.
Yeah, let's
Motion
take
and second to suspend the rules to take up items 24, 25, 26, and 27,
On the finance?
and send to Committee on Finance. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 28 is to make a motion to receive and pass the first reading.
Second.
Item 28 is lieutenants and firefighters account salaries, transferring $7,388 into injured on duty, $7,388. This is the point where our president usually says there is 7 injured on duties.
From Fairfield?
How much do we have left in the account there?
This is a swap. The individual, this is their actually budgeted money for their salaries.
Right.
And so all this is swapping it from one line item to another, so that during, it might be one day, it might be 2 days that they're injured on duty, that it doesn't reflect in the budget that they actually work those days. It's only an accounting thing. It doesn't deplete the account other than what their salary is anyways.
Make a motion to approve it.
Make a motion to pass first reading. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion that it pass the second reading. If there's no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to approve the transfer. If you vote no, you're voting to deny it.
President,
Yes?
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi.
It was attached.
Lisi's gone, McGee's gone. McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine. Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley. Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you adopted the transfer. Item 29 is introduced by Councilor Murphy that the Cliff Gas and Electric install 2 poles on Elm Street to improve lighting and also offer deterrent for unwanted activities. If possible, please place one light fixture between 320 and 324 Elm Street on the east side, the other one on the west side at the intersection of Franklin Street.
And,
Put it in sent to
Genie?
HD&E.
Public service, no, safety.
Safety.
These are new poles, correct? Okay, so the motion would be to receive, adopt, report to the mayor, a copy to the Gas and Electric, and a copy to the Department of Public Works. With a copy to the Public Service.
Safety.
Safety,
Safety.
I apologize.
You haven't missed a beat, Joe, don't worry.
Thank you, Daniel. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I think Todd's halfway to Pennsylvania.
Is he driving?
He's getting the coffee.
Item 30, introduced by Councilor Murphy. DPW repaint handicap spaces at 318 and 320 Elm Street
Motion
prior
to
to
be-
winter.
It's in
Make a motion
DPW.
to adopt this
Motion made
in
second, receive, adopt, refer to DPW prior to winter.
I would